because that number of farms is going to need a lot of people, and then advocate for policy changes, which is what I'll talk about here. So I'm not really going to talk about the farm project. If you want to know more, I can show you more. We're very much inspired by the work of Tim Lang, who you may have heard about. And he did a groundbreaking report last year called Just in Case. And he's the leading expert on food policy in the UK. I mean, he's the most eminent person in the UK. And he told a very challenging story. And we've sort of pondered this a lot. We've immersed ourselves in it to try to understand what it's saying about what we need to do. And we've come to the conclusion that it deeply challenges everything, absolutely everything, because it asks a new question. And the question is, how are we going to feed people? It's not about feeding good food to people or whatever. That is a given. It's how do we actually feed people? Because our food system is desperately insecure. One of the main things he looks at is that the supermarket system. So 95% of all the food that we eat in the UK is bought in 9 supermarkets with 131 distribution centres. Every enemy of the UK knows that that's our Achilles heel. You break that and you break the entire country. And it takes about a day for the food to run out because there are no stocks anywhere. The storage is all on lorries on the motorways. So that's the first enormous risk, cyber attacks, you're taking out key food, and we've had the first cyber attack on the co-op. So we know it can happen. The second thing is that we are extremely food dependent in terms of internationally. That's because we used to have an empire where everything we wanted came on the ship. But now we only produce 54% of the food we eat. Australia, USA, France, it's 100%. Netherlands, it's 80. Spain, it's 75. We are absolutely right at the back. And then we've got the issue of food prices, which are doubling every 17 years. And that's before the big whack of food inflation that is going to follow the fuel price increase when the farmers try to buy nitrogen in the autumn, and there isn't any. So there's going to be a big price hike coming up in the next year. And that's just that crisis. If there's any weather crisis this summer, it'll go even further, and so on. So we're in a very vulnerable situation, basically. And if you're a little bit scared by those statistics, then I kind of done my job. We do need to be a little bit scared. We really, really do have to start being scared. Now, what's interesting, as we've done our work in Powys, which is extremely rural, is that we've come to conclusions which we never imagined we would. I mean, we are in such a different place from where we were a few years ago. It's insane what's happened. As we've tried to do something about this, it's changed us completely. So the first thing is that actually the key to change is in the cities. Now, everyone thinks food, farming, countryside, but the people who eat the food are mostly in the cities. And what they do mostly dictates what happens in the countryside. And that wasn't, it's sort of obvious to me now, but it took me about 5 years to work that out. I mean, honestly, I feel like a bit stupid, really. So we're saying that for the new government, a priority needs to be for the cities to act, and the cities need to diversify their food sources for the security of their residents into the rural hinterlands around them. Birmingham is doing this already. That's a picture of the Birmingham wholesale market, where we hope within a couple of years we'll have a Welsh food stall. But Birmingham is has a food security strategy, which is we cannot be dependent on 9 supermarkets for 95% of our food. We need to get away from that. We need to have a much bigger diversity of sources. And one of those is the rural areas around us, which of course is how it's been for the whole of human history until the supermarkets came along. It's in fact a law in France that all cities must have strategies to feed themselves from the rural hinterlands, which is a really interesting concept. So that's the thing. And we know that if the cities produce demand, farmers will respond to that. Farmers respond to demand. That is their principal determinant of what they do, is demand. It's not ethics as such. It's how can they keep the business going? So if the cities change the demand, then that's the most of demand. I'm pleased to say that we signed the first contract with Birmingham today for their first order of food from Powys farms for agroecologically grown food. So it's tiny and it's starting exactly the same way as the Welsh Veg into schools, but it's a vast market and hugely diverse market and a massive opportunity. The second thing, and totally unexpected, is that we need to change housing policy and planning policy, particularly around housing. Now that, again, absolutely, this is a picture of the houses that we've built for the 3 farms. They are houses that can be taken away. Again, that's all to do with planning regulations. I won't go into the technicalities of why they're like that. But basically, the countryside is blocked. Few farmers are completely unable to start farming in any great numbers. I mean, some do, and there are a few, but it's absolutely tiny compared to the amount of food that's eaten. So they're blocked by the fact that rural areas have been depopulated, that the planning regulations stop new houses being built in the countryside, in farming areas, but also by the price of land. Land is priced at 3 times its agricultural value in Wales, which means anyone buying the land simply can never make money, can never make it pay from farming, ever in their whole lives. That's the horrible, horrible fact. Interestingly, in France, it's not legal to sell farm land out of farming. And hey presto, the average price of farmland in France is 1/3 of what it is here, because that's its agricultural value. But anyway, Powys County Council has commissioned a study at our suggestion for how can we use the land that the council owns more effectively. And the proposal is that any land that is suitable for local growing, for local food, is not sold out of public or community ownership, but is sold to a community entity. We need to plan for emergencies. And I'm not going to go into detail here. This is a really technical area that governments and local governments have to get their heads around. But for communities, it's about, and Tim Lang makes this emphasis really strongly. If we want to build resilience for emergencies, we really need to focus on how communities look after each other in times of crisis, because that's our strength. That is the big strength across the whole world, is how people look after each other in emergencies. So, and that's about growing more food locally, outside of the commercial sector, communal eating, etc., etc. So that kind of thing. So the good news, and I put some lovely summer flowers so that we can think about the summer coming, is that building for food security is actually fun, particularly communal meals. It's good for the climate, it's good for the local economies, and it's good for communities. But the fundamental question remains, we need to feed people.